Hello there, my name is James Harrington. Spanish football is for you, then this is the place to be. Today I'll be reviewing the season of each of the 20 La Liga sides, giving them a ranking of either awful, disappointing, okay, good or brilliant. Well, let's get into it. So we start with Athletic Club, and for me, it's been a disappointing season. In December they got rid of Gaika Garitano, a man who'd been in charge since 2018. And the reason for that was there was a series of bland and quite weak performances from the side at the beginning of the season. In comes Marcelino, a big name in Spanish football, a man who has brought success to previous clubs he's managed, and it started really well. That Supercopa victory against Barcelona in January was a clear high point for the season. But the marker of how successful this season would be for Athletic Club was going to be the Copa del Rey. 2 finals, 2 weeks. They had to win one of them. But it wasn't to be. A nervy performance against Basque rivals Real Sociedad resulted in defeat, and then they were totally outclassed by Barcelona in the second final. Now, reverting back to La Liga, well, they had that initial bounce when Marcelino came in, but their season really fell apart towards the end, only winning 3 matches since March. You have to give them some positives. They've got some good players coming through, Berenguer, Morcillo, Sanset, Villalibre, and they're challenging those established players of Raul Garcia, Munain, Inaki Williams. And Marcelino did install a more attractive counter-attacking brand of football, but again, we only saw that in parts throughout the season. For me, it's just been a disappointing year for Athletic Club, but clearly big expectations next season. Now, Atletico Madrid. And they've had a brilliant season. Winning La Liga means they definitely have to have this rating. Now, with Atletico Madrid, it went down to the wire, didn't it? Winning the title on the final day, as they did back in 2014. Let's just cover off the Champions League very quickly, because, to be frank, I don't think they performed particularly well in that. I'm thinking as well, that second leg defeat to Chelsea. Admittedly, they were the eventual finalists, but they just didn't give a good account of themselves on the European stage. Reverting back to La Liga, it was a season of 2 halves. The first half of the season, they won 16 games out of 19. That got them 50 points, and that really cushioned them for the rest of the season. Then their form started to dwindle a bit, and it became slightly more precarious. However, they got their act together towards the end. 6 wins in the final 8 matches against really close matches as well. I'm thinking Alaves, Elche, the comebacks against Osasuna, Valladolid. Eventually getting them over the line and securing the La Liga title. Again, if I'm being really picky, there were moments where they could have exerted total control of La Liga with maybe victories against the likes of Barcelona or Real Madrid, but that wasn't to be. But as I say, I'm being very picky there. The great thing about Atletico Madrid this season is the more expansive football that Diego Simeone's adopted, reverting from his 4-4-2 to his 3-5-2. Of course, Suarez is the player that's going to get all their headlines this season due to that narrative about his departure from Barcelona, where he was effectively discarded, and in their contract they didn't stipulate that one of the clubs he couldn't sign for was Atletico Madrid, and then he's come back to haunt them, getting 21 goals and entering what Simeone dubbed the Suarez zone towards the end of the season, getting crucial goals against Osasuna and Valladolid. But with Atletico Madrid, I've also liked the likes of Correa, Carrasco, Trippier, Llorente and Koke this season. All the players have really stepped up for Simeone. As well, with Atletico Madrid, unlike the other clubs, it seems to be quite a settled dressing room. As well, I don't believe they're riddled with debts as much as Barcelona and Real Madrid. In Simeone, they've clearly got someone they can trust. In the decade he's been there, he's won them 8 trophies. And what I'll be interested to see next season is, can this success signal a spell of dominance in La Liga? Quite possibly, because they've really got a good squad at their disposal. And as well, can this success translate to success on the European stage? I do hope so. All in all, a brilliant season for Atletico Madrid. So we head to Pamplona next for Club Atletico Osasuna. And for me, they've had a good season. I was worried for Osasuna at the start of the campaign. The defeats were racking up, and I wondered if they were going to pull the trigger on Arrasate. But they stuck by him and they got a respectable mid-table finish. What became apparent for Osasuna throughout the season was that players became more confident. I'm looking at Budimir with his 11 goals. Herrera in goal became more self-assured. David Garcia, Moncayola, good man management demonstrated by Arrasate. So for me, in light of all that, I'm going to give them a good rating. And to add to that good news, Chimi Abela's back, which is brilliant for them. Next up, Cadiz, and I'm going to give them a brilliant rating. Sevilla has done a great job. Cadiz are back in La Liga after a 14-year absence, and they got a really respectable 12th place finish. Now, why have I given them a brilliant rating, you may ask? Well, frankly, the expectations were for them to go straight down. But what they did when they're in the top division, they adopted a really pragmatic approach, realising their limitations in terms of players, in terms of finance, and they did the basics right. They were very tight defensively, were not fussed really about having possession of the ball, essentially just keeping the ball out of the net. And across the season, they've got some really good results, some big scalps. I'm thinking against Barcelona, where they beat them and drew to them this season. What was also great about Cadiz's season is they secured their safety before the final day, a testament to a stellar campaign. The Ramon de Carranza, the stadium, is known as a hotbed of emotions and real ferocious fans. And the fact that they've been able to motivate themselves so much this season, the Cadiz players, I really respect that. So for me, it has been a brilliant season for Cadiz. Next up, Deportivo Alaves, a club in their centenary year. And unfortunately for them, I've given them a disappointing ranking. Now, I really debated this one. I was thinking, could it be okay? Has it been awful? A club like Alaves, I feel, have loftier ambitions than just surviving and not being relegated. But the reason why I gave them a disappointing rating is because I felt they got the manager right in the end. So awful would have been too harsh. Machin started the season 18 points in 18 league matches. He was shown the exit door. Abelardo Fernandez came in, a man who knows the club, who's got them to safety before. He only got 5 points in 13 matches, and frankly, I thought that was Alaves gone. There's no coming back. In comes Calleja, and he managed to get 4 wins, 3 draws, 2 losses, and he got them to safety. Calleja has agreed a contract extension to 2023, and I really do believe he's the man who can take them to that next level. What he was able to do was certain players like Jota came alive, Thomas Pina, Lucas Perez became reintegrated into the side, and actually squad disharmony really marred the tenure of Abelardo Fernandez, and that went as soon as Calleja came in. Fundamentally, he did the basics. He got them scoring more goals, and they were better defensively. It was a disappointing season all in all for Alaves, but with Calleja, I'm expecting bigger and better things next year. Next up, Elche, and for me, it's been an okay season. There has been their turbulent moments. Getting rid of Pacheta in the summer, the man that got them promoted, brought in Almiron, someone who's had no experience of managing in Spain, bringing a lot of players who haven't played in Spain either, but they had a really good start. And I was thinking, this could be a really good season for Elche. But that good start turned to woeful form, having not won a match in 16 games at one point. They got rid of Almiron and they brought in someone who knows the club, Fran Escriba, the man who got them promoted in 2013 for the first time in 24 years. And what Fran Escriba was able to do, he was able to mastermind their survival with 5 wins. There were some big wins there as well, against Sevilla and against Athletic Club on the final day, with goals from Lucas Boye and Raul Guti. What Fran Escriba was able to do was get the best out of those players in that relegation run-in. And what made their survival even sweeter was they were able to secure it at home on the final day, but in front of the fans who had been away from the stadium for so long. Due to the fact that for large parts of the season we thought Elche were just gone, there was no chance of them staying up, and the fact that they were able to get their survival on the final day, it's been an okay season for them. Next up, Barcelona. And what I've given them, okay. I felt like giving them disappointing, but I felt that would have been too harsh, because there were glimmers of hope. With Barcelona this season, in the autumn and the winter, it felt like La Liga was going to be a write-off for them. They were languishing mid-table. It felt like Messi's future was definitely away from the Blaugrana. It felt like Koeman wasn't fit for the job. However, it all changed in 2021. They had a chance of winning the title. They rocketed up the La Liga standings. They weren't defeated in La Liga until April against Real Madrid. The problem though, the problem that persisted throughout the campaign was, in those big matches, Barcelona didn't step up. And I'm thinking in the Champions League, you got the game against Juventus at the Camp Nou where they were simply rolled over. The knockout stages against PSG where PSG were just a class above them. Or even in La Liga, in those final few weeks, the results against Granada and Levante, which knocked them out of the La Liga title running, they just eventually became undone. Now, I don't want to be too critical of Barcelona because, as I say, there were some positives. I'm thinking players like the big names, Busquets, Griezmann, Dembele, recapturing their form. Youngsters coming through, Pedri, Ricky Puig, Trincao, Mingueza, Moriba. They did have the Copa del Rey success where they absolutely dominated Athletic Club in the final. They've got a new president in Juan Laporta. They got rid of that Bartomeu era and brought someone who had success with the club before. So hopefully he can get the finances and the hierarchy and the overall infrastructure right at Barcelona. But the problem for Koeman, and it was definitely noticeable in the spring towards the summer, was that this cloud was constantly hanging over him, which probably fostered some doubt in himself, was, is he the right man for the job? And questions will be asked throughout the summer whether he's going to stay, and we don't know yet. But this season was dubbed one of transition for Barcelona. They've had some rocky patches, they've had some good moments. So overall, I think an okay rating is fair. Next up, Getafe, and for me, it's been an awful season. Under Borlas, previously they've got some top half finishes, but this season, 15th, 4 points from safety. Now, Getafe historically have been a really aggressive, unpleasant side to play, someone you just didn't enjoy playing. However, that hasn't been the case this year. A lot has been made of the void left by Jorge Molina going to Granada, where he's got 8 goals, and the fact that maybe the attackers haven't stepped up enough. I'm looking at Enes Unal, who came in the summer, getting 4 goals, or Jaime Mata getting 5 goals. So that void has really played on Getafe this season. As well, the January loan signings, those attacking players, those flair players like Carlos Aleñá, Taki Kubo, it hasn't really worked out for them. Admittedly, they did get the goals against Levante, which secured the safety of Getafe, but by and large, those deals haven't been as great as we thought they could be. The mere fact that Getafe's season was, their safety was confirmed on the penultimate weekend just shows how risky a campaign it has been for the Madrid-based side. And it seems like the time is up for Bordas at Getafe. He's due to be off to Valencia, and that just makes me feel this season really has been awful by all accounts. Then there's Granada, and I think it's been a good season for them. When I look at Granada's campaign, there's been some real high points. In La Liga, they had an outside chance of qualifying again for the Europa League, but towards the end, some poor form kicked in with 4 defeats in their final 5 matches. By that point, I think fatigue was really their main problem. They had their biggest moment in the club's history this season into the quarter-finals of the Europa League playing Manchester United, but whilst they did get knocked out, they played with their heads held up high. In the Copa del Rey, they got to the quarter-finals as well. A big thing for me for Granada is keeping Kennedy. He's been on loan with them this season, and if they were able to keep him, alongside Darwin Machís, they really have an electric attacking line. A big loss for Granada is Rui Silva, their goalkeeper, going to Real Betis. But ultimately, I think Diego Martinez is a fine manager, and he's got the team overperforming and overachieving. The big strength of Granada this season is their home form. At the Nuevo Los Cármenes, they got 31 points of their 46 this season. That's why overall, it's been a good season for Granada. Next up, Levante. Now, Paco Lopez has been there for a while, but he really seemed to get the side ticking between October and February. They got that win against Real Madrid, which was some good performance in the likes of Jose Luis Morales, Roger Martí, who both broke the 10-goal mark this season, so well done to them. And a player I really enjoyed watching was Jorge de Frutos. However, with Levante, their form really did take a turn for the worse around March time, and this is where it makes me think they've only had an okay season. And this is really petty what I'm about to say, but I think it justifies my rating of them. For the first time in the club's history, they had the opportunity to finish above their rivals, Valencia. But it didn't happen. They got to as high as 8th in La Liga at one point. But in the final 10 games, they only won 2 of them. In 4 home matches, they lost 3 of them, including that 5-1 thrashing by Villarreal. Their home form was actually really quite poor this season, only winning 5 games at home. Levante did have certain highs, like getting to the semi-final of the Copa del Rey, eventually losing to Athletic Club in extra time. They've never actually won the Copa del Rey, so it would have been a huge thing for them to win that tournament. But by and large, I think it's been an okay season for Levante. Next up for me, Celta Vigo. Now for Celta Vigo, I've given them a good rating. Celta Vigo this season, and I did a video on this in my match preview when they played Barcelona, where I really delve into how they've been playing of late, have now adopted a really attractive brand of philosophy, attacking, high pressing, free-flowing, dynamic football. Long gone are the days of Oscar Garcia, who was quite defensive, quite bland. Chacho Caldet has revolutionised the Galician side. Now, with Celta Vigo, with some really impressive performances from the likes of Santi Mina getting 12 goals this season, Iago Aspas, who his omission from the Spain squad simply baffles me, and then you've got Bryce Mendes as well getting in and amongst the goals. With Celta Vigo in previous seasons, they finished 17th, but this year they finished 8th. And those 5 consecutive wins in the final few matches helped them rocket up that La Liga table. And you have to say, is the objective next season Europe? And I think it really should be. Whilst Diego Simeone is likely to get manager of the season, for me, Chacho should be in the running for what he's done for them this year. Overall, it's been a good season for Celta Vigo. Next, Real Betis, and for me, it's been a good season for them. Now, they definitely had a season of 2 halves. Take 2020. Oh, they were bad. They were really bad. One of the worst defences in La Liga, in the bottom half of the table. But in 2021, Pellegrini transformed them to be one of the most in-form sides. They only lost 2 matches in 2021. That was against Sevilla and Barcelona. In large part, that is due to the fact they got their act together defensively with Mandy and Ruiz. They decided to settle on a number 1, that being Claudio Bravo, and Borja Iglesias, the Panda, was in amongst the goals. Towards the end, it started to look a bit more dicey again, with getting a lot of draws, and that meant you were wondering on the final day, would they qualify for the Europa League? They went 2-0 down to Celta Vigo, and you thought, no, it cannot be done. But they staged an absolute dramatic comeback, won the game 3-2, and qualified for the Europa League next season. The last time they played European football was under Setien, and this is the 12th time in the club's history to play European football. It seems like Los Verde Blancos are where they want to be, and that's why I think it's been a good season for them. Next up, Real Madrid. Now for Real Madrid, I'm going with an okay rating. It's always really hard to judge a Real Madrid season because essentially winning the trophy or a trophy is a key measurable. Now this year they were in the La Liga title race right down to the wire, going to the final day between them and Atletico Madrid. And even when they found out Atletico Madrid were winning against Valladolid, they still kept going, getting 2 late goals, eventually losing the title by 2 points. In the Champions League, they got knocked out in the semi-finals versus Chelsea. I mean, less said about that performance, the better. Recently, in another video, I said I expect big changes this summer for Real Madrid. And what I mean by that are, manager. Zinedine Zidane has confirmed his departure, bringing an end to the second stint at the club. Now, big names have been touted to replace him, Conte, Allegri. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to take his hot seat next season. Ramos. Now, Ramos, leader, a stalwart of Real Madrid, his contract negotiations seem to have reached a dead end. And will he be at the Bernabeu next season? Who knows? But more broadly, actually, on the Ramos thing, I'm expecting a big defensive reshuffle this summer. We've seen Militao come in, perform well. We've seen Varane, Nacho perform well as well. And David Alaba's rumoured to be coming in on a free from Bayern Munich. So big changes in that defensive line. Thirdly, The youngsters, we saw Miguel, Ruben Blanco perform well towards the end of the season. Odriozola as well start to look more competent. Will they be more integrated next season? And what about those youngsters out on loan? Jovic, Ødegaard. Now there's still the likes of Benzema and Modric who might keep them out of the first 11, but how are they going to be involved in Real Madrid's future plans? We then have as well the big names, those players that haven't really lived up to the expectations or seem slightly distant from the first team, that being Eden Hazard, Gareth Bale. Do they have a future at the club? Probably not. So in light of all that, it really is going to be a huge summer for everyone involved at Real Madrid. But reverting back to this season, at the end of the day, Real Madrid gave it the best they could given the circumstances. They hadn't lost a league game since match day 21, and that was after the Levante clash. With Real Madrid this season, we've talked about it at length. What's compounded their success is injuries after injuries ravaging the side. They've barely been able to play their first choice defensive line. In light of all of that, I'm going to give them an OK. As well, being one of the leading architects of the European Super League, I don't want to be too generous this time around. Next up, Real Sociedad. And for me, they've had a brilliant season. Real Sociedad on the final day, it was crazy for them. One moment they were playing Europa League football, the next they were in the European Conference League, but finally they secured Europa League qualification. Back-to-back seasons doing that, that is truly brilliant for the Basque side. Now, this season in the Europa League, they did get outclassed by Manchester United in the round of 32, but I'm sure they've learned a lot from that experience. For me, what made it a brilliant season was the fact they won the Copa del Rey, their first trophy since 1987. And what made it even sweeter was that it was against their Basque rivals, Athletic Club. Now, looking in the context of La Liga, for a period of time, Real Sociedad were in first, but they've gradually slid down the table. Now, you can't expect Real Sociedad to win La Liga, so in the context of European qualification and Copa del Rey success, it has to go down as a brilliant season. What as well has been great for Real Sociedad has been the rise of Alex Isak. 17 goals for a 21-year-old Swedish striker is really impressive form. Filling the void left by William Jose, hopefully he'll be leading the line for Zuriudin for many years to come, but rumours are swirling at the moment that a number of other European clubs are interested in procuring his services. All in all for me, I think it's been a brilliant season for Real Sociedad. Next up, Real Valladolid, and for me, it's just been an awful season for them. No side has had more draws than Real Valladolid. And a lot was made that they're too good to go down. They had the likes of Oriana, Plano, Sean Weissman, their big money signing, the most expensive signing in the club's history. But whenever I watched Real Valladolid, two things. There was a lot of mistakes in their play, and as well they lacked a lot of urgency. And I'm even thinking the final day at home against Atletico Madrid, you're fighting for your Liga survival, and there was no hunger there, and that was always very frustrating when I watched Real Valladolid. Now, with Real Valladolid, they've sacked Sergio, their manager, and I was surprised it wasn't done sooner. But I think for Ronaldo, this is a really big moment for him. It's part of his Real Valladolid project. It's a moment to hit the reset button. Look, they went down the second worst home form in La Liga, bringing the end to their 3-year stint in the top flight. In the Segunda Division now, we've got to hit the refresh button. And for me, one of their big priorities is, I respect they've got the Israeli international Sean Weissman, but they need to refresh their firepower, their creativity going forward, because I think it could be a really difficult division to get out of this time around. So for me, Real Valladolid, you've just had an awful season. Next up, Eibar, and it's just been a disappointing season, hasn't it? There was a moment on matchday 34-35 you thought the comeback could be on an incredible survival story, but it wasn't to be. Now, Eibar this season has spent most of the time in the lower to mid-table, but not winning in 16 matches and only getting 4 draws in that period sent them to the foot of the La Liga standings. They're the worst home record in La Liga with 2 wins. Now, when I looked at Eibar, I never felt that their defence was particularly bad. I mean, they had a really good goalkeeper as well, Marko Dimitrovic. It was just, they weren't scoring enough. Kike got 12 goals, brilliant for them, and he got that memorable hat-trick. But when you look at the next best goal tally for a striker, Sergio Enrique, he got 3. So simply, they just didn't have enough goals in them this season. Brian Hill had bright flickers throughout, but that kind of faded towards the end of the season. Unfortunately for Mendelebar, he's now confirmed he was departing the club, and he has really put together a solid side for the last few seasons for Eibar, not finishing beneath 14th position. They've had a really romantic story, come from a small town, small club, small budget, so it's truly disappointing the way that their time in the top flight has ended. They've won the hearts of everyone, and hopefully they'll be back soon. Next, Huesca. And for me, they've had a disappointing season. Now, it went all the way down to the final day, where they needed just one goal against Valencia to secure their survival. But it wasn't to be, and Elche stayed up in their place. Now, with Huesca, I firmly believe to the bitter end that they would stay up. Their season has been, again, a season of two halves, as I've said before. Misha, when he was in charge, they just couldn't get the rub of the green, getting a lot of draws in matches they should have won. Then Pacheta came in January, and he secured 6 wins for them, lifting them from the foot of the table to 17th. He got the best out of certain performances like Maffeo, Siovas, Rafa Mir, Galan, and he really was able to galvanise the dressing room. He was so enthusiastic, and his enthusiasm was infectious for everyone who was watching. With Huesca, I believe that if they kept Pacheta for next season, he would be the person to engineer their promotion for the Segunda Division. However, it's been confirmed they won't be in charge next season, which I think adds to the disappointment. As well, the mere fact that, Rafa Mir won't be around next season is as well disappointing. 13 goals, at times he really was a one-man marching band for Huesca. But it's going to bring the end to his loan spell, and he won't be there to rocket them back up to La Liga. All in all, for me, Huesca have had a disappointing season. Now there's Sevilla, and for me, they've had a good season. I flirted with putting brilliant, but I thought they'd be too kind. Sevilla were able to qualify for the Champions League, and they were even in the La Liga title running for a period of time. With Sevilla, though, the things that dented or were blemishes to their record were their performance in the Champions League against Borussia Dortmund. They got all the way to the round of 16, and they were playing the German side, who weren't in form at that period. In the Bundesliga, they were struggling, so maybe they should have got past them. As well, with Sevilla, in the Copa del Rey, they were 2-0 up in the semi-final to Barcelona, but ended up losing 3-2 in aggregate, which was a real surprise, actually, that result. And as well, maybe this is being too harsh, but this was their real opportunity to win La Liga. Their first La Liga title since 1946. So that's why it couldn't go down as a brilliant season. But it has to go down as a good season because the shrewd signing of Papu Gomez, the great season from En-Nesyri, and it was a season where they broke so many records. They got record points in La Liga, 77, record number of wins, 24, least number of goals conceded in La Liga, only 33, record of 557 minutes without conceding, a record of 6 straight away wins, record of 18 matches unbeaten, and they qualified for the Champions League with 5 matches to spare, the earliest qualification. It's been one of the best seasons in Sevilla's history. They seem to be a really cohesive side, very good defensively, and they're keeping many of their key players. I'm expecting bigger and better things from them next year. Next up, Valencia, and they've just been awful this season. Remember, this is a club that at one point in 2018-2019 finished 4th in La Liga. This season, they finished 13th. Now, there's been a lot of frustration from the fans directed at the Valencia hierarchy, and quite rightly so. Last summer, they completely gutted the side, selling a number of the first team stars and not really recruiting. Peter Lim as well did a really alarming interview in the Financial Times in May where he said the fans' expectations are unrealistic. They've got birds in their heads, which shows that the relationship between the two has truly broken down. There has been some positives this season for Valencia. I'm looking at the performance of Rakic, Carlos Soler, Guedes towards the end, and the rise of Yunus Musa. But by all accounts, you can't disagree, it has been awful. Sacking Javi Gracia, and now they've brought in Bordas. Is he a spent force after his disappointing season at Getafe? Who knows? Rumours that Silason's on his way out, Kang-in Lee's not signed a new deal, and he's got real flair, something that I felt they've lacked at times. And if I was Bordas, the new manager of Valencia, the thing that I need to fix, and something that's been really apparent that they've struggled with this season, is their defence. Apart from Paulista and Gaia, whenever I've watched the likes of Diakabi, Guillamon. I've just felt nervous. All in all, it's been awful from Valencia this season, and I hope for Los Che fans it greatly improves over the summer. Finally, Villarreal, and they've had a brilliant season. Now, you could call it recency bias after them winning the Europa League final against Manchester United, but that was always going to be the benchmark of their success this season, how they progressed through that tournament. They got rid of Calleja, brought in Unai Emery due to his expertise and their desire for him to lift them into those Champions League places. In the final, they put in a really measured, controlled performance and really limited the Manchester United attack. It went all the way to penalties and Rulli converted their goalkeeper, the 11th penalty of the game, and got them the trophy. Now, taking a step back from that, looking at their season in La Liga in isolation, they were only able to finish 7th. That means they'd have qualified for the European Conference League, which is the third tier European competition. And if that was the case, and that was the only thing of note from this season, it would have been viewed entirely differently. Emery came in with the objective of getting Champions League football, and he's done that through the Europa League. And with the Europa League as well, they've won the first major trophy in the club's history. So it has to go down as brilliant. A lot of that has to go down as well to Gerard Moreno, arguably the best Spanish player at the moment, who got 50% of their goals for either goals and assists this season. Honourable mentions for Chukwueze and Parejo. They've got a really nice side at Villarreal, and it'll be really good to see how they perform next season in the Champions League. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, why not hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, and why not give the video a thumbs up? It's all greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.